Shalom Aleichem. So, why didn't Moshe Rabbeinu enter Israel? Is the great story, is the great question that we're going to address today. What's the background story? At the end of the 40-year journey through the desert, the Jewish people are finally on the verge of entering Israel. Moshe Rabbeinu, their leader, their prophet, their teacher, their guide, had brought them this far. But then God tells Moshe, you cannot enter the land. What is the stated reason? Because he hit a rock instead of speaking to it when the people were thirsty. Seriously? The water flowed, but God said, you didn't listen to my instructions exactly, so you're not going into Israel, which seems very disproportionate. After everything Moshe did, after receiving the Torah, bringing the Jewish people into Israel, hitting a rock instead of talking to it costs him his dream. Can it really be? I'm at a new location here, so trying out the cellular coverage. Hope it works. Moshe begs to go into Israel, not once, not twice, but 515 separate prayers. He tries from every angle. He says, let me enter as a bird, as an animal, just to set foot into the land. I'll go in as a private citizen, not a leader. God says, no. Moshe, enough. Ravlach, stop asking me. What's going on over here? So what happened again with the incident of the rock? This week's parsha is Chukas, and which means laws, statutes. Jewish people cried for water, and God told Moshe to speak to a rock. For whatever reason, he was angry, overwhelmed. Different commentators talk about different things, but he hit the rock instead. And it wasn't the first time Moshe hit a rock in order to get water. It's happened before. So why the sudden shift now? What happened? What was the steep consequence of not going into Israel? Something else must be going on here, because the Torah is not a book of punishment. It's a book of guidance for life. So let's go a little deeper. Chassidus explains that Moshe was denied entry because his mission, his soul, and his leadership style weren't aligned with the needs of the next phase, which is life in the land of Israel. Moshe and his generation lived on open miracles, manna from the heaven, a cloud guiding them, fire by night, a cloud by the day. Israel would be different. Their life runs through nature, farming, building, plowing, harvesting. Not a downgrade, but an evolution. But you don't send an angel of miracles into a land of physical struggle. And that's why Israel required a different kind of leadership. Not that Moshe wasn't worthy. It's just that his soul wasn't aligned with a new mission. And that's the basic Hasidic take on this. And there's many, many other explanations. One of the other explanations the Rebbe offers is that, again, of course, it wasn't about punishing Moshe, but it was about protecting the Jewish people. If Moshe had entered the land and built the Holy Temple, the Beis HaMikdash, it would have been spiritually indestructible because he was such a holy man with such a great blessing from God. But God knew that later on, the Jewish people would fail and falter, and if the temple wouldn't be destroyed or couldn't be destroyed, the Jewish people would have to. So Moshe stayed behind. In Israel, they built another temple, which is temporary, and it literally saved the Jews. So it was enabling the Jewish people to survive later on. But if all said and done, Moshe could have insisted, I worked so hard, I did all this work, I deserve to enter the land. And he did in the end insist, but he didn't enter because, he could have insisted and really pushed through to enter the land, but he didn't, because realistically speaking, Moshe was a true leader, and he wasn't looking to get to the finish line. Leadership, true leadership, is not about what I could do or where I could go. It's looking out for the people you are leading. So he stayed in the desert and he stayed with his people. Leaders don't demand the prize, they deliver the people. And we've just commemorated Gimel Tammuz, the Rebbe's yahrzeit, the date of the Rebbe's passing. The Rebbe, like Moshe, didn't go into Israel, although he wanted to. He stayed with his people in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, New York, in exile, when the then Chief Rabbi of Israel, and the former IDF General, Rabbi Shlomo Goren, asked the Rebbe, "Why don't you go to Israel?" The Rebbe responded, "If I go, who will care for the Jews of the diaspora?" The Rebbe explained that for him, it's far more effective to launch and coordinate Jewish outreach worldwide from a central hub like New York, a crossroads with the world, with direct connection, direct reach to every Jewish population. It's easier for him to do his work from there than from Israel. The infrastructure that the Rebbe created connects people all over. You know that if you travel and if you live, if you're not under a rock. You know, Chabad is everywhere in America and Europe and all the continents. And it's easier to build that network, said the Rebbe, from New York. And that's why he didn't go. He stayed with his people. Someone else asked the Rebbe, "Why don't you go to Israel?" The Rebbe turned the question around and said, "You ask me, let me ask you, what are you doing for the American Jews who are assimilating in your city?" Basically, the Rebbe urged people to be where they are and to fulfill their mission right where they are, and don't look for wonderful spiritual experiences elsewhere. Another historical example of this that everybody knows is the Purim story. Esther, the Jewish orphan raised by her cousin Mordechai, became the queen of Persia. Hello. I'm just doing a video on Torah, and these kids want to know who I am. We'll talk another time. So Esther became the queen of Persia, and then of course we know the story that Haman tried to annihilate all the Jewish people, and she was needed to intervene on behalf of the Jewish people. But she hesitated because she hasn't been called to the king, and everyone knows that story. But what did Mordechai, the then Rebbe, say? "If you remain silent, Esther, salvation will come from elsewhere, but you and your father's house will be lost." In other words, you were placed here for a reason. If you don't step in, the story will go on, but your name won't be in the credits. And that message is not just for Esther, but it's for all of us, at all times, in all places. Yaakov and Yosef had a similar story. Right before his passing, Yaakov, our forefather Jacob, called Yosef and made him swear on everything holy to bury him in Israel. And then he bowed to Yosef to give him extra spiritual power. Yaakov needed to ensure that Yosef will bury him in Israel. Why did he go through these lengths to make him swear and bow? Is the question. The Rebbe explains, because Yaakov and Yosef had opposing views on leadership. Yaakov believed in leading from afar. Go to the location that you want the people to be and draw them near. From a position of vision and separation, go to Israel and draw the people there. Yosef had a different view. He told the Jewish people, "When you all leave Egypt, take me with you, take my bones with you. Only when everyone leaves, I want to go with you." So Yosef willingly stayed with his people in Egypt, and he believed leading from within, like a captain who doesn't abandon his ship. And that's what the Rebbe also believed in, and that's what we believed in. So we are all emissaries, we're all ambassadors of God, of the Rebbe. If you're alive and you're in a place, you're not stuck. You were sent there. And everyone with their own mission. A few short stories. A 14-year-old boy put on tefillin with an unsuspecting guy in Israel. This man, his name was Alon Cohen. He became a famous rabbi in Israel and transformed many from this one moment that this boy doesn't even remember. So every act is powerful and every place is important. And one word, one smile, anything can change history. Like Yosef in prison, where we know that story when he saw the prison mates, the baker and the butler, when they were downcast, and he asked them, "Why are you so sad today?" And that one question changed the trajectory of history until today. And finally, we'll end with a short story. But my classmates, they were 11 years old a few years back, yeshiva mates of mine, Rabbi Mordechai Farkash and David Monshine, two great men. At the time, the Rebbe was speaking about loaning, giving people loans to give them what they need in dignity. The Rebbe inspired them and the world in different ways. And they decided, these little boys, they were 11 years old in Israel. I was actually there at the time. I was there a year or two later. I was there when I was 15, and this is 11. Do the math. Anyway, they decided to make a little, it's called a Karen. They called it a Karen David Gemach. Karen is a foundation, an institution of a loaning society, of loaning pencils, school supplies, paper to those families who couldn't afford school supplies. And believe it or not, there were many. And so they wrote a letter to the Rebbe saying that they're establishing this Gemach, this free loan society, and they want his blessing. The Rebbe sent them 100 shekel with a letter to the administration of the Karen David Gemach, to the foundation of this great big foundation. So I want to participate in your Gemach. I want to help you. I want to be part of this. The Rebbe didn't see two boys. He saw directors of a foundation, because nothing is too small for the Rebbe and no one is too insignificant. And that's what arguably what helped them become the great leaders they are today. These two boys, Rabbi Farkash and Monshine. Moshe stayed with his people in the desert. The Rebbe stayed with his people in Brooklyn. Yosef stayed with his people in Egypt. You and I are meant to be where we are, and not just stay, but to shine, to show up, to speak up, to step in, and to help. The Holy Temple was destroyed by regular people like us, and it will be rebuilt by regular people like us. Thank you always to Rabbi Schneier Ashkenazi for these inspiring, beautiful takes on the Rebbe's teachings. And spread the word, spread the light, and we'll be in touch. This beautiful day is getting hot in Cleveland, Ohio. God bless you.